What is something people just wouldn't understand until they've experienced it themselves? I was fully paralyzed for a year, and wheelchair-bound for 2 years. Have fully recovered now. I don't think anyone can fully understand what it's like to be paralyzed, what it's like to be told it'll be permanent, and to grieve a loss of self, a loss of half your body movements, what it's like to navigate a world that wasn't designed for you anymore, and finally what it's like to walk again later on. Congratulations on your recovery. Thanks. One thing I learned was we are all far more capable than we give ourselves credit for. We are really resilient, and we can adapt to some unfathomable situations when needed. Chronic pain. Absolutely this. I was bone on bone with my hip joints for almost 10 years. I couldn't get out of the car, out of bed, or enjoy almost any aspect of life without screaming pain inside. I put on a brave face, but my awkward walking by mid-40s was giving it away. I was not good. I had both hip joints totally replaced with titanium, and at almost 50, I move and feel like a teenager again. It's heaven after a decade of hell. Poverty. Poverty when you don't know you're poor is the best. You get a perspective that not everyone experiences. I'm in my mid-40s and am doing really well, 300k plus. I don't have to worry about anything and can have whatever I want. But I still remember living in a garage with my mom and sister and not having enough money for school supplies. I have a lot of wealthy friends and colleagues who complain about how much they pay in taxes, and it bothers me cause it's like, do you fuckers realize how goddamn well you live? If you're bitching making half a mother-in-law, then don't over-leverage yourself. When you get higher up financially, you can easily get into a bubble with other people who think the same and totally lose perspective that the vast majority of people are struggling. I will never forget how lucky I am, and that so many people are not as fortunate. I don't even make 1/5 of your salary but live in the EU. I'd still consider myself well off. I don't need to think about gas for my car. I can get something nice to eat whenever I want, and buy what I always wanted. I come from a family where money was tight. We definitely were not poor, but me earning nearly the same as my parents earned together, pre-tax, is mind-blowing to me. Being born into a war-torn and impoverished environment with no way to escape. I've just no idea. I see this on TV and wonder how life works, to have it all ripped away. I experienced a tornado, so I assume the feeling of not knowing who's alive and what's left is like a very watered-down feeling of a raid, and instead of one tornado, there's an EF3 generator in the sky pumping more at you, and the tornado is man-made. A situation having the worst possible outcome regardless of you doing everything right. A truck could crash through what you're doing and someone would still say you should have avoided it, you were in your house. How people will either patronize or avoid you if you have a disability. It's the looking at you that's the thing. I know hidden disabilities is a thing, but at least you have your privacy with that. When it's just out on full display you lose autonomy. Yeah, for sure. But people tend to talk to you differently as well, or worse yet, talk to the person with you, if you are being accompanied. Watching someone you love die slowly. The inevitable waiting is like a crazy roller coaster of emotions. It's like having a painful, open wound that you know can only start healing after your entire world has been turned upside down. That is an amazing and accurate way to put it. I watched a loved one go through it with his partner, and it was hell to see both of them go through it. As much as you want to help, it is their journey, and you do your best to support them both. The only comfort I got from it was, at least they have some time. It might feel different for others, but it seemed less painful than losing someone in an instant. To be able to do some bucket list things, to be able to say what you need, and to have the time to process. But I say this as someone watching on. Drug addiction. The difference between a simple hangover and actual withdrawal symptoms from alcohol. The first one is just a headache with some bad mood. Second one begins with constant belly ache for multiple days, shaking, freezing and sweating, and then whenever you visit the toilet you're reminded by the color of your urine and shit that this was way too much. You won't feel bad after that. You'll feel lucky that you're not death. I agree with you. You can die from alcohol withdrawals. It's not even close to a hangover. I was seizing the night of day 4, early morning of day 5. Spent day 5 in hospital. Days 6 to 17 were literally spent like relearning how to walk, talk, run, speak with some normalcy, stay on topic. Wasn't until day 21 I actually felt semi-normal again. That night I was reflecting and started stressing about the lost earnings of those 3 weeks, and then felt I was on the way back to the hospital for a damn heart attack when extrapolated the potential losses plus money spent on booze the last 20 years and began to wrap my head around it. Such a gross feeling realization. Panic attacks. I had thought I had panic attacks in the past, but when I finally experienced one, I felt so stupid realizing it had only been extreme anxiety in the past. Panic attacks are absolutely terrifying and miserable. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. And it doesn't help to know it for what it is. You know you're okay, you know everything's fine. Still just mind-numbing terror until your body decides you're good again. Random person. It's all in your head, man. Just relax. Me. Yes, I know, but could you please tell my body? It's convinced I'm dying right now. Burying your child. Burying your own child must be one of the worst feelings ever. Yes and no. Watching him suffer was actually worse. I hate that he's gone, but he's not in pain or trapped in his bed anymore. Having depression and anxiety. I've been having periods of anxiety and panic attacks for the first time ever over the last few weeks, and just got prescribed medication for it today. I feel so bad for my past, silent judgments of others having similar issues. It's not just being nervous. True loneliness. When you're in a failing marriage, or have had a falling out with a parent, when you've moved to a new country and don't know a single person, or when you've changed as a person and have distanced yourself from others, on purpose or not. I've been on both sides of the fence. Basic loneliness, having no one, and true loneliness are very different feelings. One of them can teach you how to become more independent and resilient to the world eventually. But when you're surrounded by people and feel isolated, unloved, unappreciated, and like you can't even talk about what you're going through, the pain runs far deeper. In this situation right now. In general, mental health problems, anxiety, depression. It's fucked up when you suddenly catch yourself thinking, I could just step into traffic and I wouldn't have to experience this anymore. But on the other hand, the happiness that comes from playing an instrument. It's like a whole different area of fun, the same fun that you experienced when being a child. I can never understand how some people don't listen to music, or have no specific taste. They are missing out on so much. Oh, and lastly, the feeling you get when you become really good at something, and suddenly understand a topic or sport, etc. on a deeper level. A whole different world opens up to you. And then you realize how little you still know and that now you have just started on your journey. Sleep paralysis. 2 out of the 3 of my sleep paralysis experiences have been positive ones, surprisingly. Being a victim of domestic abuse. I have a kick-ass therapist, rewarding job, loving family, fun hobbies and packed social life. I never thought it would happen to me. It took me 3 years to finally realize that I was being abused by him. It started off mental, got physical when I tried to leave, and then an additional 2 years to be able to safely leave. He got away with $5,000 of my stuff, but I ultimately agreed not to press civil or criminal charges because the most valuable thing was just getting him out of my life for good. The entire time, and even now still, I'm like, how is this my life? I'm validating every Lifetime movie trope. I was looking for this. I didn't understand it until I experienced it. I was someone who would think, why don't they just leave? And not understanding at all what they meant when they said it wasn't that easy. Then it happened to me, and when people told me to leave I began saying the same thing, it's just not that easy. I'd also think like, why would you be with someone like that? Without really understanding that usually by the time someone is like that, you're already a broken shell of who you were, and you think you deserve all of it. You stay with someone like that because you think that's what you deserve, and it becomes normal. Abuse from a partner just fucks with your head in so many different ways. Everything is survival. You really aren't yourself anymore. Being a parent. Adding to that, childbirth. It's essentially a near-death experience in terms of the pain you endure, and no one talks about how brave you need to be to do it. Getting your house broken into. People often react, it's just stuff, just replace it. My place got broken into 2 years ago, and they literally took anything that was worth any money and destroyed the rest. I had nothing left except the stuff I had with me at the time and a couple of t-shirts. My stuff means a lot to me and I was very sad about it getting taken, but more than that, I felt violated. I never slept in that place again, and even when I was staying with my girlfriend, I hardly slept. I had mood swings, no appetite, and got super depressed at some point. I had therapy and I feel a lot better now, but a couple of weeks ago I came home and saw the lights were on. I knew I had shut the lights off. I panicked. Turns out my cat had just pressed the button for the floor lamp while running around. Traveling overseas to a country that speaks a different language with distinct different culture. The overwhelming benefits to meditating consistently. The hippie and spiritual types put a lot of people off to the idea of meditating, but it's seriously the most beneficial skills I've practiced, and I've practiced a lot of skills. Eating a meal that entirely either walked or grew on your own land. What is something people just wouldn't understand until they've experienced it themselves? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.